Good day. Scooter here at Granville Guitars, coming to you live this morning from the Granville Guitars World Headquarters in lovely St. Petersburg, Florida, USA. Here to talk about my 1969 Fender Pro Reverb Amplifier today. This is the amp that I use on most of my pedal and guitar demos. And I've gotten a lot of questions from people about it, such as, details about it, speakers, tubes, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And I thought I would put together just a short clip here, hopefully short, hopefully not too long-winded, I tend to be, about the amplifier. I call it the golden rule around here, which means to me that it's the yardstick. It's the true tone of most any guitar that you plug in to the amplifier. It just makes everything sound fantastic. So it's become a favorite around here. Received it as a gift from a very dear friend, and my marching orders were to make it work, and if I could keep it, and so I did make it work. Although it was a lot of work. It had been found at a construction site and was even dirtier than it is now, which is saying a mouthful. And I had to do an awful lot of screwing around inside there and cleaning up and replacing, etc. Let's flip it around back. All right, as we look around back here, let's get some more light. As we look around back, we can see that it does not have original speakers. I opted for a pair of Eminence speakers. We have the red, white, and blues over here, which is one of my very favorite speakers for a Fender-y kind of application. It's fairly high-powered, 120 watts, so it's going to stay firm, but it's got that glassy, pretty Fender-y thing going on. And then over here, I could only get one of the red, white, and blues at the time I wanted it. So I did some research and opted for this Legend. I believe this is the V312, which is a similar power structure, but kind of gives it a little more low, mid, meat. And I really like them. I like the combination a lot. It really has worked out well. You'll notice we have the original speaker connection arrangement there. I was able to salvage that part of the amplifier, which is good. And we have the original speaker connection up top here with that F cap. Switches were replaced, as I recall. Removed the ground switch and disabled the courtesy outlet, I'm sure. Down here pulling rectifier duties, we have the JJ GZ34. I have a pair of RCA short bottle black plates in there for power. And I don't remember what all the preamp tubes are, and I didn't take the shields off. I'll take those off once I get the chassis out and show those off to you. Put my sticker on there just to remind me that it's mine. That's it from the back, really. Nothing too magical there. Let's have a look inside, shall we? All right, here we are. Got the chassis flipped over on the tube socket side, and I'm not going to reveal what my preamp tubes are. I'd forgotten I did some crazy things in there. I kind of want to keep to myself, but it's the usual stuff. You can research all that. Here are my filter caps. I redid the filter supply on this amp, as you would expect. They were original. Went with TADs on this amp. I've been going back and forth between TAD and F&T, and I think F&T has kind of won out overall, but the TADs are fine caps, and this amp is dead quiet and runs perfectly, so the TADs are wonderful caps. They make great tubes as well, so seek those out if you get a mind to. Now on to the transformers, and we're going to identify these bad boys real quick here. Hopefully it will let me focus. Focus power. There we go. No. Okay. I have to back out. Fine. Be that way. Um, the output transformer has a manufacturer's code of 606. It means it's 1960s, and the dash, and an 8. So that's a 68. The actual code up on top is 022848. And that does correspond to a 40-watt output transformer with a 4-ohm output. So that's the correct output transformer for this amp. As we move over here, we see the choke. The choke has a date of 606-9. So that choke is a 69. It's actually the newest of the 3 transformers that are on here. And its code is 022699, which is correct for all Pro Reverbs of all ages, or at least of that era. Now, here's where the curiosity comes in. All right, here's where it gets weird. Sorry about that pause. I had to maneuver this around so you could see what I'm talking about here. This is the power transformer. It is the correct model for this amplifier. You can see on there that it's a J 022798, and that is correct. It's the right model. But if you look at the date code, you'll notice that it's actually a 65. So, I don't know. Is it a replacement? Let's think about the era that we're talking about here. This is the CBS era of Fender guitars, amplifiers, etc. So anything's possible. This transformer would not have been used in a whole bunch of different amps. You'd probably find it. Let me see here. I've got my reference materials here. You may see it in the Super. Let me look at my listing here. Sorry, I'm ill prepared. Let's see. The power transformer on a Super 022798 in the AA1069. So, yeah, it's definitely the right power transformer. Is it the original one? It is a 1965, and this amplifier is a 69, and not just because of the transformers. The newest transformer on here is a 69, so that makes it a 69. We also factor in the pot code dates, which I've had a look at and may or may not show you here. I don't know. It depends on whether I get a good angle on them. But the preponderance of evidence calls this amplifier a 69. But it has a 65 power transformer. Now that would be the date code kind of gives you, into the CBS era. So it could be a blackface power transformer. They were constructed slightly differently on into the Silverface era. They started potting them with epoxy. This one appears to have been potted with wax, which is what the Silverfaces would have been potted with. Sometimes lacquer, usually wax. So that's a little bit of a mystery. I don't know if anybody's got some information or a viewpoint on that. I'm calling it a 69 with a 65 power transformer in it. So there you go. We forgot the reverb transformer. It also has a 60. What is that? It's a 69, 6069, and that is the correct reverb transformer. So, yeah, there's 2 of the 4 transformers. including the reverb circuit transformer. They're 69, so that would be why. Now, as we pan out a little bit and you look at the chassis some, you're going to see where I had to clean away quite a bit of corrosion and rust that were in danger of causing some, eddy currents and such right there, right in this area. Just get your connections better. You want where this is bolted to the chassis, where each transformer is. You want that to be clean under there, if possible. And there was quite a bit of rust and corrosion, and underneath the bias pot access there too. Let's have a look inside. All right, we're inside the chassis here, and this was kind of a weird transitional amp. I have seen this style of wire used in here several times. This thin Teflon coated wire. I have seen it used, particularly in the CBS era, but it was kind of a transitional thing. You don't see it very often, and it's all over the place inside this amp, and it worked fine, so I left a lot of it in place. We can see up here to the, that's the bias supply board. If I can get my tripod to cooperate. You can see that I've replaced all three components. It's got a brand new bias supply capacitor and also resistor and diode. And that runs over here to the bias potentiometer. And you'll see I add an extra capacitor there, just a little extra juice. It's not a huge cap capacitance-wise. It's only a 63 volter, but it adds just a little bit of extra to the bias supply. It's something I was taught to do, and I still do it. You can see the pots up in here. Most of the wire was left in place. I had to do some scrubbing and cleaning of the board in a lot of places. You can see the phase inverter. Sorry about that. You can see the phase inverter plate resistors are right there. I went with metal oxides on these. Not a popular choice among certain people, but I like them down at the end of this amplifier. And you can kind of see that the 220Ks at the top, where the bias comes in, have been replaced as well with metal oxides. But by and large, I left a lot of the stock amplifier in place. The goal was to kind of just leave it as stock as I could. I left a lot of the Mallories in here, the low voltage Mallories. I find that some of those white Mallories can go and go and go and be just fine until they start leaking, and then you replace them. If they're not leaking, I kind of leave them in place. You'll see most of the bypass caps that are Mallories. I left those alone as we go down here. All those 100K plate resistors are all still in place. I did replace the base cap on the normal channel with an orange drop, and I agonized over that. I actually tried a couple of different ones. I tried a real blue molded one, and that's the one that just sounded best in that channel at this point. All 4 input jacks have been replaced. This channel I went with carbon films, as you can see, if it'll bother to focus for me. Man, I need to learn how to use my camera, obviously. Well, anyway, I used carbon films there, and in the effects channel, I actually used Dale precision resistors. Again, a choice that I like. Other people like to stick to the carbon comp thing. I think that the input and the resistors I'm talking about are right here. They're Dales. They're right there. There's a couple of 68Ks, and there's a 1 meg as well. I like for there to be as little chance of noise at the input as possible, because everything that comes after it is going to amplify all that. So I try to use, quality precision resistors where I can in the front end like that. But anyway, that's the forward edge of the chassis. And if I can lean forward here some, we may be able to see some of the rear. Again, you can see all this Teflon wire, and I left a lot of it in place. A lot of it didn't need to be replaced. There was a lot of cleaning to do, that sort of thing. I'm going to flip the chassis around so I can get a better angle. All right, we're flipped around here, and you can see the rectifier tube socket right there, and its associated wiring. And you'll notice that when I put a new 3-prong cord in here, and I've grounded it right there. Black wire, the death wire, is bypassing the courtesy outlet, and I removed the phase switch and its associated death cap and put a chassis plug in, and the black wire goes directly to the end of the fuse. Okay, and then the white wire, right out of the wall, the white wire goes way over here to it goes to the standby switch along with the power transformer. And then there's the actual power switch right there. The reason you do this is that the wall voltage is going straight to the fuse. If anything in the amp happens at all, there's nothing in the way of that fuse blowing. So any problem will blow the fuse and protect the amplifier. So that's the reason for doing that. You can see that I went with the 500 ohm 5 watt Zycon salt lick resistors there. Those are my preference. Not always 500 ohm. I just wanted a little bit more, and they were close anyway. So I used the 500 ohms at this point. There again, your power switches and fuse holder, output jacks. Then we got the driver tube right there. Gain makeup and reverb and effects and input tubes. And the other side view of the board here. A lot of originality still in this amp. You can see the board, how warped it is. I mean, I've seen them worse than this, but not very often. That just means that the amp's been hot and it's been humid and it's just warped that vulcanized fiber board. It does happen. This one was not coated with wax as they were later on. For who knows, whatever this amp went through, it just warped that some. So there's not a whole lot of magic or mojo or anything going on inside this amp. Some people may argue with me and say, oh, that's a black face power transformer. There's where your mojo is. That could be, might be. I tend to prefer and lean towards the silver face transformers, honestly. Slightly higher voltage. They're potted with epoxy. They rarely go bad. Rarely. And, I find that they sound, in the majority of cases, they sound as good or possibly better. But it's whatever you're looking for in a tone. I'm a child of the 70s, so my tonal ideals are, maybe a little different than the majority or someone who's more from the 50s or 60s and are used to other tones. I do like this amp with the tube rectifier in it. In general, I prefer solid-state rectifiers, but this amp just sounds better overall and responds better with the tube rectifier in place. Could be that it's got those new old stock RCA black plates in it. That might be part of it. Not really sure, but it just sounds fantastic to my ear with that rectifier tube in place instead of solid state. So I just left it tube, and like I said, Leo kind of got a lot of these designs right the first time, so there's not really a need to mess around with too much. Oh, you can see here the bias supply splitter resistors right there. Whoop, came in too far again. It doesn't like it when I do that. Those are the 220Ks and that wire in the middle. Let me get my pointer. That's coming in from the bias supply right there. But I did not, as I'm looking around in here, other than the power cable, I don't think I replaced any of the wire in this amp. I think the wire is all as it came to me. So that's saying something, all the original pots are in place. I didn't change any pots. I did change out all the jacks. That's not uncommon. They were making a racket, and I couldn't clean them enough to not make a racket. So that's what I ended up with. All right. That's about all for the innards of the Golden Rule here. I'm going to put it back together and play it a little bit. All right. Here we are at the end of this little hopefully brief video featuring my 69 Fender Pro Reverb. We've looked at the guts of it. Now let's kind of hear what it sounds like. I'm using my 1982 Schecter Strat style guitar, nicknamed Munch, Koa body, maple neck, early 80s EMG pickups, and I've got the SPC mid booster in this thing as well for some more humbucking kinds of sounds. That's the effects channel. Bright switch is on. Volume's at 6, trebles at 6, bass is at 2, and we'll probably try some reverb here as well. I can't remember it. It's been too long. That's enough embarrassment. You can just get lost in that reverb. Something about a good old-fashioned tube-driven reverb. I'm not really a reverb guy, but you can get lost in there. All right, let's go to the humbucker sound. Before I hit an overdrive pedal, I'm going to crank this thing and let you hear what a good pro reverb, when you hit it really hard, will go into JTM 45 territory, if you get an idea. That's on 10. All right, I backed it off a little. Let's go back down to about 6 and hit some copper drive. All right, let's try the Mr. Neutron. It's so much fun. That's why I call it the golden rule, because it's the rule, man. It's the yardstick for tone to me. Whenever I really want to remember what a guitar amp can and should sound like, this is the one I plug into. So I hope that's answered some of your questions that I've seen about this amplifier, the 69 Pro Reverb amp. That just about covers it, I think. If you have any questions about anything we do here at Granville Guitars, seek us out on the web at www.granvilleguitars.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and go over to WordPress and check out the blog, A View from the Granville Bench. That's all I got time for today. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Have a rockin' day.